As most of you might be aware, and much to our dismay, the federal electric vehicle tax credit, which provided up to $7,500 for a new vehicle and $4,000 for a used one, has expired today. The good news is that there are still some resources available, and still plenty of good people are working to continue the fight for the wide scale adoption of zero emission vehicles. So we have several of them are joining us tonight to discuss not only the programs still available to us, but what we need to do as advocates moving forward. So it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's panel, and all of our speakers' bios will be in the chat. First, we'd like to welcome Ingrid Malmgren. She's the Senior Policy Director at Plug-in America. She has over a decade of experience advancing transportation, electrification, and legislative advocacy. And since 2008, Plug-in America has promoted the benefits and capabilities of plug-in electric vehicles. And they are the lead sponsor of our National Drive Electric Month and Drive Electric Earth Month events, which of course we at TCS are very active participants in. We also have Ann Arnold from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Mobile Sources Division. Ann has been working to reduce vehicle emissions for decades, focusing on DEP's EV and diesel modernization grants programs, charging, and e-mobility. We'll have Doug O'Malley from Environment New Jersey. He's the State Director for Environment New Jersey, a tireless advocate for all the eco topics we care about here. He does wear a lot of hats, but most relevant to tonight's conversation, he's the president of ChargeEVC. We're glad to welcome also Stan JARACZ from the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association. Stan is one of our most committed and knowledgeable advocates for electric transportation in New Jersey, president of the NJEVA. He is a driving force in the state's sustainability movement and a great partner to us here at the Tri-County Sustainability. And last, but certainly not least, is our friend TRACEY Woods from Sustainable Jersey. She's the Senior Program Manager for Sustainable Jersey's Energy Team and continues to play a vital role supporting our municipalities in the transition, including all electrification and transportation programs. So if we can start with you, Ingrid, we'd love to hear a little bit about Plug-in America's perspective on the expiration of these tax credits and what priorities we as advocates could be focused on. And welcome.
Patrick. Yeah, Ingrid Malmgren. I'm the Senior Policy Director with Plug-in America. And yeah, it's been a rough day. Just today, September 30th, the consumer tax credits end for EVs. High occupancy vehicle lane access ends. That's actually a program that there is a provision in that the Federal Highway Administration has to approve, and they're letting that provision expire. So all over the country, we're losing high occupancy vehicle lane access for EVs, and hundreds of millions of federal funds expire that were from fiscal year 2022 in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So these are grant funds for community charging for electric vehicles and other opportunities. Those are also expiring tonight. And of course, we have our possible government shutdown looming. So heck of a day. But there are a lot of good things, exciting things about electric vehicles that can give us hope going forward. And we can talk really briefly about things that that New Jersey can do, that you can do in your communities. So first of all, we know the tax credits are expiring. They are not the strongest economic driver of EV adoption. Plug-in America conducts an annual survey every year, and every year consistently, we find that the strongest economic driver of EV adoption is affordable home charging. So while the tax credits are important, they're not the strongest. Public charging is moving ahead. NEVI funds are being released. There's now over 265,000 public charging ports. The used EV market is really strong. Over 1 million used EVs are going to be coming off leases over the next 3 years. And used EVs are reaching price parity with gas cars. Battery prices are continuing to come down. Globally, the rest of the world is moving forward with EVs. 1 in 4 vehicles sold globally this year will have a plug. The manufacturers realize this and they're starting to step up. Ford and GM are working to extend the tax credits. They have this Iona network that is this with a lot of other OEMs that are um, building out chargers. And Ford actually submitted comments in the endangerment finding to the effect that they actually want tailpipe emission standards. So go figure.
Mhm.
EV drivers love their cars. Every year, our annual survey shows that at least 9 out of 10 EV drivers expect their next car to be electric. And the bottom line is EVs are replacing gas cars. In the last 6 years, gas car sales have dropped by a million and EV sales are up by 3 million, sorry, and EV sales are up by a million. The more people know about EVs, the more interested that they are in purchasing an EV. And as we know, once you switch, you're not going back. So the bottom line is EVs are simply better vehicles. So now that we've got these losses at the federal level, what can we do? EV education, super important. So you mentioned National Drive Electric Month, it's still ongoing. If you drive an EV, tell your friends and neighbors. There are studies that show that the more exposure people have to EVs, whether their uncle has one or their neighbor has one or they've ridden in one, that really makes a difference in helping people feel comfortable and get EVs of their own. Give someone a ride if you've got one. Tell them how much you love your EV. Um, Obviously, state and local policies, that's going to be a really important, it's going to be important for states like New Jersey and local communities to pick up the slack and address the gaps. Things like incentives, right to charge laws, building codes. New Jersey has an amazing circular economy, like battery recycling bill that we use as a national standard. And then utilities. Utilities probably are the entities that have the most to gain from EVs. EVs are an amazing flexible load source. You plug them in when the sun is shining. You can managed EV charging can be such an asset to utilities and actually bring down prices for everyone. So those are some of the calls to action. Definitely share your EV experiences, and there's a lot that states and municipalities can do.
Great. I love that. Thanks so much. And so you're almost making me feel positive despite today's news. So thank you for that. So as we're hearing, it's really not all gloom and doom. So there are programs even here in New Jersey to help our municipalities, schools, and businesses with the EV transition. And Anne, can I call on you to see if you can speak to some of the DEP's EV initiatives?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. My name is Anne Arnold, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. Um, I do want to note some of the programs that we have, which are for most of ours are focused on medium and heavy duty incentives for their grants for local government. That's where a lot of our money comes from. And most of the money we have now is not federal. It's we get regional greenhouse gas initiative funds for these grants. The grants are open to local government, towns, municipalities, cities, boroughs, counties, public authorities, public schools, and Board of Educations. And also to contractors who might be providing current services to local government. So if you have like a trash company, waste management, school bus services, as long as they have a current contract with a local government, they could be eligible for these incentives. It's basically, we offer an incentive that covers the cost differential from purchasing a new diesel instead of a new electric. We have a table that lists the incentives, and the incentives are based on vehicle weight class. We also include an extra up to 20,000 per direct current fast charger, which are the fast chargers that would charge the new equipment. So those basically, I'm going to drop a couple of links into the chat that that give the incentives and show what our programs are. First one, that's our diesel modernization program. So you can go to that website. You can submit a proposal at any time. We still have tons of money left in there for local governments. We also have a couple of, like, even though we focus, we don't focus really on the individual, we do have some tables that we try to put together, like for our sister agencies, Economic Development Authority, they have a program, and the BPU, Board of Public Utilities, also have programs. So we try to compare our programs. We have a couple of really good charts on our tables on our website where I'm going to put these in the chat too. These can kind of help you see who offers what and where you might fit the best, whatever your entity is, because it looks like a lot of information, but you can contact us and ask more specific questions. There's the links to each program, like the EDAs and the BPU's programs are linked in our tables. And here's another one. Copy this one. Okay. And then besides that, we also have the electric school bus program, which our solicitation, so that other program I just talked about, the DMP program, that's for like garbage trucks, street sweepers, utility trucks, shuttle vans, transit buses, pretty much any kind of electrification your organization might need. But for school buses, we have separate funding, which is the New Jersey school bus law. So that is run by solicitation. So you can only apply when a solicitation is open. So our last one just closed this past Friday. So we will be hopefully awarding some new school bus awards within the next few weeks or so as a result of that. And that runs the same way. So there's various incentives that cover the differential plus the cost of a charging station. The It Pays to Plug In program that we have, I'll drop that in here too. So that is also for like local governments, and it's open to anybody, like businesses, governments, nonprofits, and educational institutions. So that's to help expand the charging network across New Jersey. It's open as a rolling admissions for the level 1 and level 2. And the DC fast chargers are open by solicitation only. So private residential dwellings are not eligible, but multi-unit dwellings are eligible to apply. So I'll just drop those in the chat. There's some pretty good incentives there for helping to expand the charging network. That's It Pays to Plug In. And then we have a current DC fast charger solicitation. Those are the fast chargers, which once we get these out, the solicitation that's current right now doesn't close until October. Again, it's for businesses, governments, nonprofits, organizations, and educational institutions. It closes October 25th, and this is for DC fast chargers in community locations. So they have to be open to the public. So that will help, expand the charging network. So for people who do have EVs, when they're driving around, they will have places to charge. So that one's pretty exciting. And then our last program is e-mobility, and that is for shared mobility projects to use electric vehicles, like electric buses and car share services, so that people who do not have a chance to own an electric vehicle can still utilize electric transportation.
Love it. That is great. Thank you for all this information. We really appreciate it. And the key word you said is that it is not dependent on federal dollars. So that's great. So we hope the transition can continue strong in New Jersey. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
Now, bringing it from bigger trucks back to the individual level, Stan is here from the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association. Hello, Stan, and welcome. Can you talk a little bit about if somebody was unaware of the benefits of electric vehicles, and how is the NJEVA helping people switch to electric?
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Patrick, for introduction. I am very grateful for being in this webinar. The mission. So, New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association is one of about 100 chapters of National Electric Vehicle Association, and our mission is to advocate for accelerated adoption of electric vehicles through education and demonstration. The demonstration is pretty much electric vehicle shows. We organize electric vehicle shows in our community across New Jersey, and we partner with other organizations to onboard the audiences. And that could be a sustainability fair, green fair, regular street fair. Sometimes we have event co-located with classic car shows. And so we want to attract broad audiences, and we want to talk about the benefits of driving electric from viewpoint of our own personally owned vehicles. This is very powerful. We are now very fortunate of having a special grant through Plug in America. And thank you, Ingrid. And this allows us to actually offer pay for EV owners who offer test driving. And we had a couple of those events, one on Saturday, September 20th in West Windsor. It was part of a larger community day with about 3,000 attendees. And last weekend, September 27th, we joined Greenfest Newark. And we offered a really good number of test drives. And as we neared the end of the event, the interest in test drives kind of exploded to the point that none of the 7 vehicles that we had available for test driving were not on the lot because they were being test driven. So we were very happy that it was such a success. Back to you, Patrick.
Great. Thank you so much. And if anyone's still interested, there are still events going on in New Jersey. So if you want to look at the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association, they have a great website and calendar listing all of the events. So thanks for that, Stan.
I will put it into the chat. It's jerseyeva.org/events.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now we'll jump over to Tracy. And again, thinking about schools and municipalities, can you tell us a little bit, Tracy, about how Sustainable Jersey is helping?
Sure. So, actually, the areas that we've already had the webinars for perfectly align with you guys' service area. One thing that we've done in the summer and in the fall, oh good, somebody fixed the lighting situation, is we had a webinar with ACE where they explained their EV programs both for commercial fleets and for residents. And it was I didn't really understand how their program worked until I was in that webinar, because they really explained it well, and it's a great resource to look at that webinar. And then just a couple weeks ago on September 16th, we had a webinar with PSEG where they explained their resources, including which are mostly geared around EV charging, but they did have an exciting new opportunity where certain, if you drive certain newer classes of EVs, you can sign your car up so that it automatically does demand response, and you get, incentives for letting them either reduce or turn off your charging time, if you're plugged in during peak hours when they need to minimize the amount of electricity being used. And I was really surprised how high the fee for doing that was. Yeah. That's really a lucrative thing for EV owners that have the eligible cars to do, that live in the PSEG territory. Sadly, both of my older EVs are not eligible.
Yeah.
So I won't get to take advantage of that, but I was really impressed. I thought that that was a good model for other utilities. And I will put in the links to those utilities, to those webinars, so you guys can watch them. You know, if you've looked at the utility programs pages, hearing someone talk about it really just makes it easier to understand. So those two webinars exist now. The other thing that Sustainable Jersey has done, I think last year was the first year we did it. There used to be a rule in our small grants program that you couldn't apply for EVs or EV chargers or you know, any transportation things because of the fact that the state agencies offered money for those projects. But we've taken away that restriction for all but sedan class vehicles. And the reason for that is we know often, even with the state agency money, there can be a little bit of extra expense that doesn't quite fall into the category of make ready or, you know, the chargers themselves or the vehicles themselves, you know, things like bollards and site preparation. You know, and so we allow the small grants program to now be used for those expenses just to kind of, you know, add another funding piece to that stack and help you get the EV charging going in your communities. The other thing that that funding can be used for, sometimes if you have a site that you want to put EV charging on, I mean, of course, we always encourage people to talk to the utilities, but you may want some additional help designing where, you know, the infrastructure should go based on the site and what you're going to use it for. And you can now use that small grants funding for EV planning. So, you know, engineering plans or site plans, which I don't think any of the agencies and agency folks, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that that fills a hole that was existing in the funding fundosphere for EVs. And so we're happy to be able to offer that. And then the third thing that I'll say is, and this DEP and Clean Cities offer fleet analysis services. And we all three of us offer it, but we all three offer it a little bit differently and we all use the same tool. There's an excellent tool that was created by Atlas Public Planning called the Drive tool, the dashboard for rapid vehicle electrification. I forgot what I ran out of my understanding of what the letters were. And the difference between our services are, you know, the Clean Cities and the DEP focus on commercial fleets that are under a certain, you know, DEP will do slightly bigger fleets and Clean Cities focuses on small fleets. With the municipal fleets, they tend to sometimes be in hundreds of cars, and that's where we come in. That will, you know, just blink through the whole thing and put in, you know, your 400 car fleet and then run it through the Drive tool for you. And when, you know, now that we're thinking, you know, we know that it can be depressing to hear that the incentives are gone, but really, you know, doing an analysis of your fleet to figure out which vehicles are going to be the most cost effective to electrify can help you to shop with confidence, even without the federal, you know, incentives. And so that's something that we want to encourage folks that, you know, are thinking about making these purchases to come to us for, because that service is free to you and available to all municipalities and school districts in New Jersey. And there's actually another add-on tool that's relatively new for school buses where you can put in the information about the pathway that the bus drives and the information about the buses, and it'll help you figure out which buses in your existing fleet should be allocated to which routes and which ones should be electrified. And I have been chomping at the bit to like get in there and like play with that thing, but nobody's brought me a fleet yet. So
somebody better raise their
make
hand.
my day. Yeah. Yeah. So those are, you know, just a couple of the things, and I'll drop in some of those links for those resources as well. And it's a pleasure to be with you all tonight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. As always, Sustainable Jersey is at the forefront, and using these tools is an excellent way for towns and schools to learn how to navigate the process. So we appreciate you guys as always. So thank you. And then finally, I saw Doug has joined the chat. So Doug, welcome. How are you? And we wanted to ask you the similar question as Ingrid, but at the more local level. So with all these credits expiring today, can you tell us for Environment New Jersey and ChargeEVC, what kind of policy priorities you're having now, and what should we as advocates be focused on? Should we be calling our state senator or assembly people, or what should we be doing to advocate?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you so much, my fellow panelists, Ann, Ingrid, Stan, and Tracy. I'm excited is the wrong word, but this feels like kind of the right time to be with all of you talking about this issue. Very appropriate too, because I'm having a very South Jersey evening right now and coming to you live. Is not a artificial backdrop behind me. This is Wiggins Park Marina here in downtown Camden. Just got off a boat with the Upstream Alliance on the lower Delaware River. Wanted to switch gears here for this conversation though, because today is a little bit of a gut punch. The $7,500 tax credit really was, a sale. It helped to move sales. It was a sales accelerator. That being said, for those of us that kind of followed the history of the tax credit, the tax credit, you got 200,000 cars, but this is before the Inflation Reduction Act, and then you kind of capped out. And then the reality is those sales continued for those vehicles, whether it was Teslas or whether it was for Chevy. So really there's kind of a holy trinity here of what drives sales for EVs, right? Certainly it's price, it's range, and then it's charging. And then to kind of run through all of these issues that we're talking about, and Ingrid hit on a lot of them, and obviously touched on kind of the state programs. I really wanted to emphasize, a little bit more of just where the funding is coming from for these programs, and kind of this moment. Patrick, the question you asked: should you call your state legislator? My answer is yes, every day. Right. Helpful if you have something new to tell them. And specifically, if you're doing it at the right time. So in my mind, the success of New Jersey and the fact that obviously this is a gut punch with the federal tax credit. The reason we're weathering is because we have such strong state programs, and Ann ran through them, right? They're run through the BPU, they're run through DEP with their pays to plug in. The electric school bus initiative that comes because of DEP funding on legislation that Environment New Jersey and other partners fought for. We obviously have tremendous work with our utility filings for EV charging and also medium and heavy duty charging that's ongoing right now. My key message for all of you though is that there is a school of thought which is being articulated, again and again in this era of eye-popping utility rates, that somehow EVs are to blame, when it's kind of the exact opposite. Ann touched on this just a little bit, but the idea of managed charging, the idea of the fact that EVs aren't just great cars, they're also batteries on wheels. We need to figure out how to use more bidirectional charging to take advantage, of this to help the grid. We know that more EVs on the grid will actually lower utility rates. That's a story we want to keep on telling. And we obviously have a gubernatorial race upon us. I don't need to tell any of you that. But it's really critical, regardless of kind of who wins, that we're able to tell a story that this funding, we heard reference before the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, we heard reference to the Clean Energy Fund, that this funding does not seem as disposable, or even that the best way to kind of solve our utility rate crisis is somehow to end these programs and raid them and give them back to ratepayers. That obviously helps in the short term. It doesn't solve the long-term problem. So the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which for those of you, we affectionately call it RGGI, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it caps power plant pollution from fossil fuel generators. It provides a financial incentive to reduce that pollution, and it provides auction revenue to provide clean energy solutions. There's been $1 billion that's been generated by RGGI, and $2 billion, that's 1 to 2 ratio, not hard math here, $2 billion in savings for utility customers. A lot of that investment, or some of that investment, has gone to the EDA, about 60%. One of their biggest programs is called the Zero Emission Incentive Program. It's basically a voucher program for clean trucks. So this is a reminder of when we talk about electrifying everything, we need to make sure that we are putting our money where our mouth is. The EDA program has been wildly successful and has And it's really kind of still just getting started, though. This obviously takes time. We just did a big event with a multitude of partners about a week and a half ago up in Kearney Point. And it was very exciting because we talk about the early days of electrification for light duty. That was like in 2012. We're kind of in 2012 right now for the medium and heavy duty sector, but it's really starting to turn the corner. In terms of obviously EV adoption, we have 250,000 EVs, 254,000 to be exact, on the road right now. We're not going to hit our goal of 330,000 EVs on the road by the end of 2025, but we're going to come close. And so
Right.
this is kind of a reminder of like, despite the fact that we've had Trump in the White House for all of this year, EV sales have continued. And that's because, for those of us that drive an EV, we know how great it is. And I just really appreciate just a big shout out to Stan and all of you at Tri-County and the EV Association of New Jersey on working to get people into an EV behind the wheel. We kind of forget, yeah, people haven't experienced this. This is not something that, if you don't drive an EV, you don't really know what it feels like. So we just need to continue to kind of sell the concept of EVs, but also protect the funding. So we're not in a budget cycle right now. That will happen all too soon in January. And that will really be the moment where we'll just need Tri-County, we'll need all the organizations, all of the allies that are on the phone right now, all the organizations you're involved in to say, you care about utility rates, you care about clean air, you need to protect the Clean Energy Fund, which provides the state EV rebates. It's $50 million that are providing those rebates that's in the Clean Energy Fund. The raids that happened this year are unsustainable. And we need to protect RGGI. RGGI is a program that works. RGGI is providing the funding to electrify our medium heavy duty sector. So these are just programs that we can't just assume are always going to be there. Same thing goes for electrifying our school bus fleet. We need to kind of have that underpinning. And so this is where, Patrick was kind of joking, call your legislators, maybe not every day, but it is good just to say, hey, I'm a constituent, I vote and I drive an EV, or I care about these issues. I want to get more clean buses on the road in Camden and across Camden County. And those are messages that, trust me, as someone who worked closely with legislators, one phone call, that actually matters. Most people don't call their legislative offices. Obviously, if we can do more than just kind of individual action, that's even better. And this is where, as we get closer to budget time and having a new governor, we'll really need to be loud and clear to protect EVs in the Trump era and protect EV funding in the Trump era. So let me turn it back to you, Patrick.
Great. That is great info. Thanks so much. And once again, I'll say that, yes, you're leaving us feel a little hopeful. So we're thankful for that. And now that our National Drive Electric Month events are coming to an end, I'm thinking we might be wanting to set up some phone banks pretty soon, huh? So we'll talk about that. And I just wanted to check with you, Ingrid. You said in the chat, is you have something additional you'd like to share?
Sure. Let me quickly, I can just show you, sort of illustrate what was just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see, can you guys see this?
We can, yes.
So this is Tesla quarterly sales starting over the last 10 years. So 2015 to 2025.
Wow.
And in 2018, Tesla sales met the 200,000 threshold, which meant that their tax credits were going to start phasing down. You see the next 2 quarters, people jumped on that and were like, I got to get it now. And then it started to, it stabilized. And then in 2020, the tax credits were eliminated completely because they reached the threshold. And so you see a drop in sales that lasted 1 quarter. The next quarter, they were right back up there. And Tesla did not again have access to tax credits until 2023. So all of this in the red square happened with no access to tax credits. And Germany is another good example. Tax credits went away at the end of 2023. 2024 was a little rough in Germany, not as many EV sales, but they're back at where they were. So just wanted to, so tax credits we're sad to see the loss. It's great, especially from an equity standpoint, but they're not the only thing that drives EV sales.
Excellent. Yeah, that is a great illustration. And as we see, and we believe we have reached the tipping point. So now the market can take over and hopefully, we'll continue to see more folks, driving EVs. I see Sean has his hand up. So Sean, what do you have for us?
I do. Thank you, Patrick. Oh, and all the panelists. This is great content.
Excellent.
It's a good kick in the butt for all of us to let us know, hey, don't be Debbie Downer. There's a lot of good work still in front of us. Just a quick question, because there's so much nefarious stuff out there trying to submarine the EV industry and renewables. I just question for the panels. Everybody, Stan, Tracy, Ingrid, Doug, and what's the one, like the biggest misinformation story out there about EVs that you'd like to debunk so that we as advocates can go tell everybody that that's BS?
Did you see that story that's been over and over in the news, like for the last 24 hours, that there was an EV fire in Denver and it made national news? It's like one EV fire. You know how many fires I saw on the way to work today on the side of the road that were, in internal combustion engines? And I feel like, the media is disproportionately covering this one, and creating a sense that EVs have, fire issues and are, extremely dangerous when they catch fire, more dangerous than any vehicle is, which is, the Highway Safety Administration says that they're not, but just seeing, the disproportionate coverage feels like it, even if they're telling the truth about what happened in that fire, it's the way that they tell the truth about it that is misleading.
Oh, yep. Go ahead, Stan.
Well, I completely agree, Tracy, with you. The EV fires is completely taken out of proportion, and that's one of the reasons why New Jersey EVA has now program. We have a monthly first responder EV awareness program across the entire New Jersey. It is in collaboration with Easy Ride and other organizations. And we want to teach about what it takes to approach scene with electric vehicle. And you may notice that in the name of the program, we don't have fire. We have first responder EV awareness because electric vehicles are just different. It's not just a possible fire, but it's also high voltage. And it's also important to alleviate the unnecessary fear or stress of first responders when they approach electric vehicle, because we are seeing some stories like in Princeton happened about a year ago. A teenager was driving a Tesla Model Y, lost control and hit the tree, and the tree penetrated almost 1/3 of the vehicle length. The battery detached from the vehicle. It didn't catch fire. And when first responders were rescuing those guys, one of them survived, the other unfortunately did not. They were stepping on the battery. Okay, and so it is not as bad as one may think. And you can Google up photos of electric vehicles involved in collision where they are so badly beaten and they did not catch fire. There was one case of attempt of suicide when a Tesla owners drove his vehicle down the cliff with the entire family. I have inspected the picture and it was really badly beaten, the car. Not only that it didn't catch fire, but all of them survived in the car, right? So it's just unbelievable. Some people would give you advice, well, if you see a battery fire or electric vehicle fire, punch inside of the battery and put water in it. That's not a good idea, because penetrating battery make things only worse. So besides the fire could be arson, it doesn't have to come from the battery, right? So, but our experience across many events is that people are coming up with all sorts of invalid reasons against electric vehicles. We had Sustainable Jersey Summit, and one of the dealers approached me and he said something I was completely unprepared. He diverted from electric vehicles to wind power, and that the wind turbines are killing whales. I was like, excuse me, do we have any wind turbines here in New Jersey, by the way? So, and that was 2024 or something like that. So unbelievable. When I go for a road trip and I make a happy report, hey, you know, we made it to Orlando, Florida with our Chevy Bolt, and then I throw a number like how many times did we charge, right? And a random person divides the distance by number of chargers and says, well, the range of your vehicle is 100 miles. It's not true. It's not 250. It's just 100. And you see how people completely do not understand. They are fixated on the range,
Yep.
but they are not fixed. They do not understand that. And I'm talking to the church, right?
Yeah.
Is that we are leveraging the dwell time. Every time the vehicle is not in operation, you know, it's doing nothing. So electric vehicles can as well just sip, right? Sip charge. It doesn't have to be fast. We don't have to upgrade our power services. And so for every event, I always have new stories.
Yep.
So,
Gotta have stories.
yeah.
Excellent. Good point, Stan. And go ahead, Doug. You had something else as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just saying a little bit of what Stan is also saying here, and that's the fact that people just have outdated assumptions, right? They say,
Yeah.
oh, EVs are too expensive, or they're not fast, or whoever came up with that one, right? Or that, you know, it's only a range of 100
They are
miles, or
small.
yeah, charging is, you know, charging so difficult, right? So there's, you know, kernels of truth in all of this, right? But I think some of this is just breaking the mold. And, you know, I think the reality is we know the more EVs that get on the market, right? Yes, they are more expensive for the most part. We are reaching increasingly more cost parity, even with the tax credit going away.
Yep.
The reality is the holy grail is the used EV market. And that's suddenly we're starting to see headlines saying, hey, you can get a really cheap EV.
Yeah.
That's going to change the kind of assumptions here because EVs are going to last longer. We know that, right? The batteries come not only with great warranties, but it's just that there's a reason why car dealers are scared of EVs, and that's because it threatens their business model, which is designed on service, right? And so there's a reason why, you know, the car dealers of the world, you know, they realize they have to sell EVs, but they're not in love with them because they realize it threatens their business model.
Yeah.
But, you know, car dealers don't run the world, right? And even car manufacturers don't run the world, and especially American car manufacturers. So the future is here. It's now, but we don't want America to kind of suddenly be like everyone else is in the metric system and we're not. We don't want the rest of the world to drive EVs, and we don't. So everything I think that we are doing collectively, Tri-County especially, and EV Associates of New Jersey, that really helps to change perceptions. But being able to find more cheap EVs, that will really change the perception out there.
Excellent point. Thank you. And go ahead, Ingrid.
So my beef, I totally agree with the fires and the misperceptions, but my beef is the common message that in order to be sellable, EVs need incentives and that they're highly subsidized because in the OBBB that was signed into law on July 4th, there were like unprecedented fossil fuel subsidies, like the lowest leasing rates in 20 years, like just billions of dollars. There was actually $1 billion in a line item that was kind of snuck in at the last moment, and nobody even knew who put it in there. And it was for fossil fuel subsidies. So every year, the United States subsidizes fossil fuels to the tune of $31 billion.
Wow.
So don't talk to me about EV tax credits. Like, you know, this is just oil and gas. Don't even talk to me about EV tax credits. So that's one of my misinformation. And if you go on Open Secrets, you can see how much oil and gas interests are donating to like members of Congress, to president, you know, in the 2024 election. Definitely worth checking out. It's an eye opener. Like, this is not like all of these things that are happening right now are not random.
Yeah.
So
Excellent point. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Back to you, Tracy. I see your hand is up as well. And then we'll go to you, Ann.
Oh, okay. Well, I just, I know that you all know that EVs are cleaner than conventional vehicles, but sometimes when you're talking to folks, they are very convinced that it doesn't matter whether you put the, gasoline in the car or plug the car into the grid, which uses, fuel to power the grid. And this website, which is part of the DOE's website, and happily they haven't taken it down or changed it in any way. You can actually put in what state you're looking at the grid for. So different grids use different fuel mixes,
Yeah.
and it'll show you exactly for your state how much the emissions difference between a vehicle, fully electric versus a fully internal combustion, and show exactly how it's calculating that data. It can be very convincing for folks who are having a hard time believing that it makes a difference.
Right.
This is a great resource.
Facts always win. Yep. Thank you. And go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody else, especially my first thought was the fires also. We get a lot of that. We attend a lot of events, tabling events and such, so we do get a lot of feedback from people and what their questions are. So besides that, we get a lot of questions about like the mining of the lithium in, sometimes by children, they say, for the batteries, or they also are concerned about the weight of the batteries and how it's degrading the roads, like when they, heavier vehicles degrade the roads quicker. So those were just a couple things that I've heard more often than not.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, this was great. Again, we really appreciate all of you joining us tonight. You all know me. I could keep this topic on the agenda for a couple more hours, but sadly, we do have a few other things to get to. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thanks to all the panelists. A lot of great information, and particularly on a challenging day. So very grateful for all of your contributions and sharing your knowledge with us.